something my Democratic colleagues hate to hear. Donald J. Trump is President of the United States.
The schools are still open here in New York City. What's your update this morning?
Willie, 8.6 million people here. We have 25 cases as of this morning, and we care deeply about each of those individuals, but against the backdrop of 8.6 million people. And for the vast majority of New Yorkers, life is going on pretty normally right now, and we want to encourage that. Look, Mika, the truth is, unless there is a national effort to enlist doctors, nurses, hospital workers of all kind, and get them where they are needed most in the country in time. Unless that happens, I don't see, honestly, how we're going to have the professionals we need to get through this crisis. But if you're under 50 and you're healthy, which is most New Yorkers, there's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu. And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact. Look at the skyrocketing number of cases. Look at how many of these patients need ICU care. That takes a lot of medical personnel. That takes ventilators. This country is not, actually this moment, this is the sad truth, Mika, this country is not in position to deal with this crisis going forward. And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception. So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening, and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running, and we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We're not even shutting down that school long term. We're going to go in, clean that school, isolate individuals who had that really direct contact, and then get up and running. We'll have a day where a school is shut to get reset.
I don't know if I should be afraid, should not be afraid, should be a little bit more panicked, not panicked at all. Where do we stand right now from New York and then from what you know about what's happening in cities around the world?
You know, Franklin Roosevelt, the famous quote, "We have nothing but fear itself." You know, there is an element of this that is fear that's been generated beyond the facts. I worry that it's becoming sort of the cause for making a bunch of decisions that actually alter all the rest of our life, including in some very bad ways. Let me give you an example. Some people are saying close our schools. Now, we have a lot of evidence that this disease, thank God, does not really have that much of an impact on healthy children.
Right.
Okay? When you think about folks saying close everything, close schools, when in fact the evidence says our kids are, thank God, pretty safe. And we want our kids to get an education. And a lot of parents say to me, our kids need the schools not just for education, it's where they get their meals. It's parents who don't have any other choice where they're going to have their kids if they don't have the schools.
Right.
So it's thinking about the whole picture. We do have to make serious adjustments, and government has to act and people have to act. But let's not make this the false idol. Whatever we've seen up till now, I'm guaranteeing you that next week is going to be a lot tougher. And I say that with no joy. And unless the military is fully mobilized and we create something we've never had before, which is some kind of national enlistment of medical personnel moved to the most urgent needs in the country constantly, if we don't have that, we're going to see a hospital simply unable to handle so many people who could be saved. And Mika, this is what gets me so angry. But let's not make this the false idol. So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening, and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running, and we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We're not. And this is the part of each briefing that I really hate to give because it's just astounding, and it gets worse each time. But my job is to tell you the truth, and my job is to tell you the facts that you need to know. So here we go. As of 10 a.m. today, we can confirm in New York City, 5,151 cases confirmed of coronavirus. And to give you perspective, that is now about 1/3 of all the coronavirus cases in the United States of America. It is about 2/3 of the cases in the state of New York. I hate to say this, but it's true. We are now the epicenter of this crisis right here in the nation's largest city. But let's not make this the false idol. We are running out of time. I think we have literally days to create something that's never existed before for a crisis this country's never seen before. We have days to set up a structure to truly mobilize the medical community of this nation, to truly mobilize our military. And if that is not done in the coming days, you're going to see people die who did not need to die, not just in New York, but in many parts of this country. Parents need a place for their kids. We can stay safe, but still keep our lives going, our economy going. People have to pay the rent. People need money for food, etc. We cannot shut down because of undue fear. That's my concern.
So we're hearing from doctors on the front lines, especially from the ERs, that there's people waiting in stretchers up to 5 hours and that people are dying unnecessarily. What does that tell us about what next week is going to look like? And do you need the military to step in, and how?
So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running. And we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We are running out of time. I think we have literally days to create something that's never existed before for a crisis this country's never seen before. We have days to set up a structure to truly mobilize the medical community of this nation, to truly mobilize our military. And if that is not done in the coming days, you're going to see people die who did not need to die, not just in New York, but in many parts of this country. But let's not make this the false idol.